Hey guys, welcome back to Data Products. In this series of videos, we're going to be going over Shiny apps. And so Shiny apps are a R app that allows you to kind of simulate HTML. So what you're doing is you're essentially making interactive web pages that have your data and allows you to present your data in these apps that are hosted on shiny.io or some of these other hosting websites. So it'll make more sense as we get into it. So with that, let's just go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so we're going to start off a little bit different here. So traditionally we do in our Markdown script, but this time we're going to do a new file, a Shiny web app. So this will ask you to name your Shiny web app. We'll call it my first app, and you can't have spaces. It doesn't like that. And so with these Shiny apps, you're allowed to do two different layouts. I prefer to have a single file where you traditionally have a server file, so that's all your data and processing that happens on the back end that your user can't see. And then you have a UI file, which is the user interface file, and that is the stuff that your user interacts with to manipulate the data. So you can have those as two separate files, and if you're building a really big app, that might be good to have them in two different files because you won't get things mixed up really, and you can kind of separate in your brain. This is my UI, this is my server, but we're going to do it as a single file for this course. I'm going to put this, you have to choose a folder to save it in. I'm just going to call it examples, and open, and then create. So just like all the other examples, we have a bunch of gobbledygook in here. So the first thing you want to do is call the Shiny library. And so unlike our Markdown stuff, there's no R chunks, right? And so this is more like in our scripts that if you watch my videos, we worked with the very, very beginning, where you have to use these hashtags to annotate and not have it run, and so you just type in this normally. I know it's been a while since we haven't used Markdown files. So alright, so the first thing is we're going to create an object called the UI, and we're going to use this thing called fluid page, which is essentially saying, alright, we're going to set up our UI page. We're going to do select input, and we're going to say dataset, and we're going to say label. We're going to label our input. So this is a specific type of input. It's a select input. So you'll see that it's like a drop-down menu. Dataset. And our choices are going to be a list of the packages datasets. So remember when we were doing some of our examples, R has these built-in data sets, right? And so we used air quality, we used the iris data, I think we may have used the cars one, we used the airlines one, we used a bunch of different ones, right? And so what our app is going to do is it's going to say, we're going to have an input where like a drop-down menu that you've seen on many web pages in your life. And the input's going to be called data sets, and we're going to label it as data sets, or data set singular. And then our choices are just going to be a list of all the data sets that are built into R. So we're just going to be able to look at them. Then we're going to say verbatim text output. So we're going to provide a text output when you select the data set, and it's going to be a summary. And our table output is going to be a table, and then we're going to close that down. We don't need this parentheses. Okay, so that's our user interface. So this is a very basic app. We're starting really, really basic. So all it is it's going to build a Shiny app, and it's going to have a drop-down menu. it's going to say, pick what data set you want to look at, and it's going to say, in the text output, a summary. It's not doing any computing or anything. It's just pulling in the list of packages or a list of data sets from R and putting them into that input and allowing a user to use a drop-down menu to select one. So now we have to have the server, so the stuff that actually does the work on the back end. So we're going to call it server. And we're going to say a function is to take the input and the output and the session. And then since it's a function, we gotta use the curly brackets. So our output is gonna be the summary, or output summary is going to be render print, and then another function, data set. We're gonna say get the input from data set above. So for us to do this calculation, it says, all right, first look to see what the user selected. So input of the data set, we call this data set. So pick the input from what they selected up here. And then package data sets. So compare that input to our package data sets. So now we've saved whatever the input is. So whatever they've selected from the data sets, we've saved as this variable data set. And then we're going to run a summary on it. So for example, if they chose iris up here, then server's going to look and it's going to say, okay, let's look at the input of data set. And it says, oh, it's iris. This is, okay, we're going to say it's iris. And so the variable data set is saved as iris then. And then the next part of our function says, okay, run a summary on the iris data set. And that's it. And so we should get a summary printout. Then, let's make sure all my parentheses line up. Then the last thing you have to do in all these Shiny apps is run the command shiny app with a capital A. And then you have to tell it what to use. And so we have to use the user interface, comma, and the server. And that is it. So let's see how our first Shiny app works. Sometimes you have to save it first, and it won't say run app. If you get to the point where it doesn't say run app up here, it'll say like something else, I forget what it says. Save it, and then it should say run app. Okay, it's run app. There's no packages data sets. Did I spell that wrong? Oh, not plural. Package data sets. Okay. Can I find verbatim text output? What did I spell wrong there? Verbatim, not verbatim. Verbatim text output. Alright, let's save this. This wouldn't be a video of mine without numerous typos. Okay, so like I said, this is a very simple app, right? So we have, we're going to kind of compare our code to what we see in the app here. So we had our label data sets, right? That's up at the top here, labels data sets. And so for this pane, which we called data sets ourselves, the labels data sets, and our choice is a list of all the package built-in data sets, right? So as you can see, you can see some of them that we've noticed or that we've used. Iris, we may have used insect, maybe we didn't use insect sprays. Blah blah Leah Pine one. Empty Cars was about Motor Trend cars. What else did we use? I know we used the airline one. That's gotta be at the top, right? Air miles, air passenger, air quality. I think we used that one, etc. So, okay, so that gives us the list. And then it gives us a summary and a table output. So on the back end, the server looks for our input, which we have right now is ability.cove. And then what it does is it prints, it takes our input, it prints from our input the summary here. Whoops, where'd my app go? It's hiding in the background. Okay. So as you can see, when I change this, it'll change our summary, right? So air passengers, we have our min, our first quartile, our medium. median, mean, third quartile, max, and we can do this for all of them. So it'll go through every data set and give us, and it depends on how the data set is. So crim tab, I don't know what data set that is, but it gives us, depending on how the data set is set up, the summary works differently, right? So we see a DNA enzyme example, European stocks, hair eye color. This must be, so I think that these must be categorical variables instead of numeric, so we get kind of a different printout from summary, because you can't run averages on categorical variables, right? Average of red and blue doesn't make sense. So yeah, so that generally is how a Shiny app works. In a very basic example, we have a user interface. So what I hope you take away from this user interface, you just want to define what the user interface is with. Pretty clever name, right? Right on the nose. The server on the back end actually takes the user interface, so it takes whatever our input is, and then it does something. So in this case, it does the summary. So, without getting too long-winded, this is going to be a nice short video. That's it. Easy breezy. We're going to get much more into it, so it'll get, you'll probably be like, oh, that's no problem, but we'll get a little more into the weeds of it. But that's your introduction to Shiny apps. And so you can see the power in this, in that if you've gone through my videos in the past, we've done stuff with, why can't I even think, markdown files. And so if you have a very large data set, right, if you've done a dissertation's worth of work or just a ton of data, and somebody's like, I really just want to see a couple of things in here, it might be nice to build an app that you can just select what you want to see. And I know that with the markdown stuff, you can have like a table of contents where they can move down, but you'll see that you can actually interact with the data and kind of almost perform your own analysis with Shiny, compared to Markdown, where you can see somebody else's analyses, but you can't really interact with it as much. Plotly and stuff, the 3D graphs you can kind of interact with, but for the most part, Shiny is much more interactive than Markdown. They're both very professional, and you can make them look very nice. But Shiny also takes a little bit more of a learning curve, and it's not as... Markdown's nice as like a final report. Shiny, you kind of lose the final report, because if you're trying to convey a certain message, like a dissertation or something, where you're like, this is what I think this says. Well, if the user is able to mess around with the data, then that might be lost. So it's just a different way of presenting data, a more interactive way, an engaging way. So instead of, you're giving data to your audience to be able to explore themselves, as opposed to data that you want to tell a story. So it's just another aspect of data products that we're addressing here. So like I said, without getting too long-winded, I'm going to end it there. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit like, please hit subscribe. I appreciate you viewing my videos. I hope you're learning something, and let's continue on our Shiny journey. Such a great name, Shiny. But with that, I'll catch you in the next one.